What if the very ideals we champion, like freedom and equality, could, if you take them to their absolute extreme, actually lead to something, well, oppressive? Could the relentless pursuit of, say, a perfect, totally rational society end up eroding the very things that make life meaningful? Community, tradition, maybe even real human connection.
That's a really challenging thought, isn't it? We tend to think more freedom, more equality, it's always better.
Right.
But this makes you pause and think, could there be a downside, a shadow side to even our best intentions?
Exactly. And that's precisely the kind of deep exploration we're jumping into today. We're looking at James Kalb's really insightful 2008 book, The Tyranny of Liberalism.
Kalb, yes.
He's a lawyer and independent scholar, and he brings this very nuanced legal and philosophical viewpoint to his critique of modern political thought.
He definitely does.
So our goal today is really to unpack his arguments, figure out how he builds his case, and explore the insights he offers, which, let's be honest, can be pretty controversial and definitely intellectually demanding. And just to be clear, we're here to understand the book impartially, lay out the ideas in the original material, not necessarily to endorse them.
Absolutely. It's about understanding the argument itself.
And as we get into this unique analysis, it's worth mentioning you are experiencing a unique two-voice AI conversation powered by Google's NotebookLM for deeper, more dynamic book analysis.
Okay, so Kalb's book, 2008. What was the context? What was happening then that might have spurred this critique? It didn't just come out of the blue, right?
No, not at all. It seems the tyranny of liberalism came about as a direct reaction to what Kalb saw as this overwhelming cultural dominance of liberalism in the West.
Oh, okay.
For him, it wasn't just some abstract political idea. He saw it everywhere. Debates about political correctness, multiculturalism, the growing reach of administrative government.
Right, a sort of managerial state idea?
Exactly. He perceived it as this unchecked force kind of expanding into almost every corner of life.
So, given that backdrop, who was he trying to talk to? I mean, this doesn't sound like beach reading.
Definitely not. No, Kalb is clearly aiming for a pretty intellectually engaged crowd. Think academics, political commentators, maybe traditionalists, or just anyone already a bit skeptical of mainstream liberal thinking.
Okay, so not trying to win over complete newcomers to political theory.
Right. He kind of expects you, the reader, to be ready to wrestle with the ideas, to challenge assumptions, maybe reflect on the philosophical underpinnings of things. It really demands active, critical reading.
Makes sense. So what was his main goal then? What did he actually set out to do with this book?
Well, his core aim seems to be exposing what he views as liberalism's internal contradictions, its logical inconsistencies.
Okay.
He wants to show how his core principles, even with maybe good intentions behind them, can lead to these unintended forms of tyranny, as he puts it.
Unintended tyranny. That's a strong phrase.
It is. And ultimately, he's pushing for a rethink, advocating for, a revival of more traditional community-based social structures. It's a pretty fundamental challenge.
So the central subject isn't just liberalism, but something specific within it.
Precisely. It's what Kalb identifies as the self-destructive tendencies of liberalism.
Self-destructive? How so?
He argues that this relentless drive for equal freedom for everyone, combined with this emphasis on rational management of society, it goes beyond the original goals.
Okay.
And instead, it ends up creating, maybe subtly at first, an intrusive, homogenizing, and really bureaucratic social order. It's like the unexpected fallout of taking good ideas to an unmoderated extreme.
Gotcha. And his tone in doing this, you mentioned, is not just an angry rant.
No, not at all, which I think is key to its impact. His tone is remarkably measured, is this balance of critical detachment, but with an underlying seriousness, maybe even urgency, and definitely skepticism.
So analytical, not just emotional.
Exactly. He uses precise language, relies on sustained argument, logical steps, rather than just fiery rhetoric.
And that must help his credibility.
Immensely. It positions him as a serious critic, not just a partisan voice.
Yeah.
He knows he's taking on ideas linked to positive words, like freedom and equality, so he's incredibly careful to define his terms and shift the reader's perspective on what those words actually mean in practice, according to his analysis.
Right, he has to redefine the battlefield, in a way.
You could say that. And the urgency, the exigence, as rhetoricians call it, comes from his view that this liberal expansion is genuinely eroding important things: tradition, legitimate authority, real diversity, replacing them with a kind of superficial equality and top-down control.
Okay, so that's the setup. How does he actually build his case? How does he earn the reader's trust, especially if they start out skeptical?
Well, a lot of it comes down to ethos, his credibility. It's built on really deep research and this very clear logical structure he uses.
Okay.
He studiously avoids hyperbole or obvious partisan exaggeration, which is so important for this topic. And crucially, he signals that he understands both sides, the liberal worldview and the traditionalist one. He shows he's engaged with the ideas he's critiquing.
That's smart. It shows he's not just arguing from an echo chamber.
Exactly. It builds trust, suggesting he's trying to persuade through reason, not just rally the base.
And emotionally, does the book have an emotional pull, even if it's analytical?
It does, but it's subtle. It's not melodrama. The feeling it evokes is more like a sense of loss.
Yes. Loss of what?
Loss of tradition, the erosion of the family unit as traditionally conceived, the fading of organic community, all being gradually overshadowed by this abstract, bureaucratic way of governing life. He uses examples that really hit home for some readers, like debates around same-sex marriage or this legal idea of preference satisfaction.
Preference satisfaction. What does he mean by that?
It's this idea he critiques where the legal system, in his view, shifts towards simply fulfilling any individual desire or preference, treating them all as equally valid, rather than upholding older norms or community standards about rights and responsibilities.
Okay, so it's about the basis of rights changing.
Right. And these examples aren't just intellectual exercises. He uses them to invite you, the listener, to connect these current trends to bigger historical shifts, asking you to consider what might be getting lost in this drive for abstract equality.
So it's less about nostalgia and more of a warning sign, maybe, a sense of something valuable slipping away.
I think that's a good way to put it. It's a warning wrapped in a kind of quiet lament.
Yeah.
And this leads us straight into the core of his argument, the logic. This is where Kalb really focuses his energy.
Okay, his logos.
Yes. And it starts with his definition. He defines liberalism, for his purposes, as fundamentally being about equal freedom as the ultimate political goal.
Equal freedom. Okay.
But here's the twist, his key logical move. He argues that trying to infinitely extend this equal freedom actually leads, paradoxically, to more rules, more state intervention, more coercion.
Wait, how does that work? More freedom means more rules.
Think about it. If everyone's freedom is potentially limitless and equal, how do you manage the inevitable clashes? How do you mediate all those competing freedoms?
You need rules, lots of rules, and administrators to enforce them.
Exactly. So the pursuit of total equal freedom, in his view, ironically necessitates a larger, more intrusive regulatory state.
Wow. Okay. That's a powerful claim.
And he structures the book very carefully around this, defining his terms like equal freedom meticulously before launching the critique. Each chapter tends to build logically on the last. It's very deliberate.
That sounds incredibly precise. His language, his word choice must be critical then.
Oh, absolutely. His vocabulary is analytical, philosophical. He spends a lot of time clarifying words like tolerance, neutrality, rights, showing how their common usage might differ from his critical analysis.
Right, unpacking the assumptions hidden in the words themselves.
Exactly. And his sentences, while sometimes complex because the ideas are complex, are generally clear and direct. He uses these extended definitions, these careful explanations. It all signals, this is a serious intellectual project, but he wants his intended audience to follow along.
And the book's overall structure, does it follow that logical progression?
Very much so. It's quite linear. He moves from definition to diagnosis to consequences and then towards his proposed alternatives. He tackles specific areas, social organization, multiculturalism, bureaucracy, giving each a focused critique within this larger framework.
You mentioned he contrasts the past and present a lot, too.
Constantly. That's a key strategy. He consistently juxtaposes this idea of a past order rooted in tradition, organic communities, shared understandings with what he sees as the rationalist, bureaucratic, individualistic, liberal present.
To highlight the difference, what he thinks has been lost.
Precisely. It underscores the scale of the change he's describing.
And does he connect this to broader historical or philosophical ideas?
Yes. Definitely. He makes frequent allusions to things like Enlightenment rationalism, seeing it as a root of modern liberalism, but also to religious concepts and traditional philosophy. It provides context, grounding his critique in longer intellectual traditions. And you'll notice him returning again and again to those core concepts, equal freedom, rationality, treating them as the central, but ultimately, in his view, problematic, engines of the system he's critiquing. It's like a recurring theme. It's quite a detailed analysis. As you navigate these complex ideas with us, it's actually a great moment to pause and reflect on how this kind of rigorous thinking can inspire your own rational thought.
That's a good point.
And this is exactly the kind of thoughtful reflection we try to encourage through our Mindful Moments series, which you can find over on our YouTube channel. It offers AI book analysis specifically designed to deepen understanding and spark that kind of reflection.
So, thinking about the book's overall impact, how effective is Kalb in getting his main point across? Does he achieve his purpose?
I'd say he's very effective in articulating that central thesis, that liberalism's abstract ideals, pushed too far, can lead to fragmentation and this kind of administrative overreach.
Right.
And he's quite skilled at framing liberalism as this single overarching force, one that he argues has even shaped modern conservatism in many ways. It definitely pushes readers to reconsider their assumptions.
But you mentioned earlier it's not for everyone. The accessibility.
Right. It's effective for its target audience, people already engaged with political philosophy.
Yeah.
But yeah, the dense style, the technical terms, it probably limits how widely accessible it is. It's not aiming for mass appeal. It's aiming for a serious, reflective reader. For that audience, the style reinforces the book's intellectual weight.
Makes sense. And what about the logic and ethics of his approach? Does he stay consistent? Does he argue fairly?
Largely, yes. His arguments are consistently built. He defines his terms, follows logical steps. While the overall claims are big, he usually backs them up with reasoning and examples.
And he avoids personal attacks.
Almost entirely. It's a philosophical critique, not a personal one. He rarely uses ad hominem arguments or relies purely on emotion. And he connects it back to the real world, talking about things like speech codes on campus, or the expansion of administrative agencies, or that idea of rights becoming just preference satisfaction.
Right. Those concrete examples help ground the abstract theory.
They absolutely do. They make the critique feel less like just an intellectual game and more like something with real-world implications.
Are there other nuances to consider, like how different people might react to it?
Oh, definitely. It's the kind of book that polarizes. Someone deeply committed to liberal ideals might find it alarmist, maybe even unfair.
Yeah, I can see that.
Whereas a traditionalist might read it and feel completely vindicated, like, yes, this is exactly what's happening.
So it taps into existing divides.
It does, and that highlights its controversial nature. But one sophisticated thing Kalb does is anticipate objections. He'll often acknowledge the good intentions behind liberal policies, but then immediately contrast those intentions with what he sees as the negative unintended consequences, the road to hell and all that, from his perspective.
Right. So stepping back from the specific arguments about liberalism, what's the bigger takeaway here? What can we learn from this book, even if we don't agree with its politics?
I think the broader insight, and this is a really potent one, is about how language and policy work. Even when guided by noble ideals like freedom and equality, the way we define those terms, the way we implement policies, they can unintentionally create new forms of power, new kinds of control, maybe even new exclusions.
So it's a lesson about the gap between ideals and reality and how systems evolve.
Exactly. And that's a lesson that applies way beyond just debates about liberalism versus traditionalism. It's about how any system of thought or governance can develop unforeseen consequences.
That's a really powerful point to reflect on. The tyranny of liberalism really does force you to rethink some fundamental assumptions about Western public life.
It certainly does. By showing how this relentless pursuit of equal freedom might, counterintuitively, lead to more administration and maybe weaken those organic social ties, it's challenging stuff.
So it leaves us with some big questions, doesn't it? Like, what is the right balance between universal ideals like equality and the messy, concrete realities of actual human communities?
Yeah.
And maybe how can recognizing these potential tyrannies, as Kalb calls them, help us find a more nuanced way forward? A way to think about progress and change that doesn't lose sight of the richness of human connection and tradition.
Those are definitely questions worth pondering. If this discussion has sparked some new thoughts for you, remember we explore a wide range of challenging ideas, including in our Mindful Moments series and across all our podcasts.
Absolutely.
To keep digging into critical thinking and deeper understanding, please subscribe to our channel. Maybe share this deep dive with someone else who enjoys a good intellectual workout.
Yeah, definitely share it.
And perhaps consider picking up The Tyranny of Liberalism. There's a link in the description to explore Kalb's arguments directly.
And most importantly,
keep thinking critically.